Hello from the Barista Course Hamburg. After having mainly tested grinders lately, we're happy to finally have an espresso machine on the test bench again. The Primus from WPM. WPM has now also arrived in Germany and has become somewhat well known. Maybe you've seen our video on the WPM ZP1 single-dose grinder, which we found extremely interesting. And whether this machine here is just as interesting or not, you'll find out in a moment. At first glance, the Primus from WPM appears a little unusual. It is tall, it is slim, and it has a separate water tank. We've had it for 3 months now and have been testing it extensively, and it's already passed through many hands, and I must say we are quite impressed with the machine. And if you're interested in such tests, tips, and tricks all about espresso and coffee, we'd of course be delighted if you'd subscribe to our channel. That helps us a lot to make our channel a bit more visible, and that way other people can discover our videos too. And in the first 7 days you can also hype our video. However, that only works on a tablet or on a smartphone. And if you do that, it helps us even more, and we'd like to thank you in advance for that. And now let's finally get to the WPM Primus. The power button of the Primus is located on the side, and it switches on all heating elements at the same time. That means you can't switch on the espresso boiler and the steam thermoblock separately, or perhaps leave one of them switched off to save a bit of power. But thermoblocks actually consume very little power. Don't be surprised, after you've switched the machine on, it will eventually start to steam nicely and make a few noises. That's normal for this machine and actually quite funny. The housing is made of powder-coated stainless steel, and besides a dual heating system, it also has the ability to create a pressure profile. And we find that particularly exciting, of course. If you look around a bit, you'll notice that in the near future, many machines will be coming onto the market with exactly this function. And that could be exciting in the future. The machine also looks very high quality and solid on the inside. The electronics are splash-proof on one side, and on the other side we find high-quality components like a stainless steel boiler, a large thermoblock, and a gear pump. But let's first come to the exterior of the machine. As I said, it's very slim. It has a width of 23.5 centimeters, a depth of 49 centimeters, and it has a height of 40 centimeters. The special thing, however, is that it has a separate 1.8-liter water tank, which of course makes it about 10 to, let's say, 12 centimeters wider overall. The external water tank is made of plastic and is connected by a hose, but it can be easily removed for refilling and then put back on again. In principle, that's an advantage for people in wheelchairs, for example, but this advantage is unfortunately cancelled out by the way we operate it. What we particularly like is that you have the option of using a Brita water filter in the tank, and that's one of the best filters currently available. You can just pop it in and your water is properly filtered, and that's a very, very important factor for your machine. With an optional kit, it can even be connected directly to the main water supply. Overall, it weighs about 21.5 kilos, and the price is around 2,000 euros. And so it's in the range of the Profitec Move, Espresso, or for example the Lilith Bianca. As mentioned, it has a dual heating system, but is actually operated with 3 heating elements in total. It has an insulated 0.8-liter stainless steel boiler for espresso extraction, a PID-controlled thermoblock to keep the brew group thermally constant, and a separate super steam thermoblock for frothing milk. You can easily take the drip tray out towards the front and put it back in. It has a capacity of 500 milliliters, and to prevent overflowing, it has a small built-in float that shows you when it's full. However, there's no drain for the main water supply provided. That means you can connect it to the main water, but you still have to take the drip tray out and put it back in yourself. The only thing we didn't like quite as much about the machine is the drip grate. It's actually very, very sharp-edged, and you can see the sharpness of the drip grate right away. And that slightly diminishes the visual quality of the machine, which is otherwise excellent. As I said, the machine looks very slim and very tall. This is especially noticeable in the distance from the drip tray to the portafilter. This is 14.5 centimeters and is therefore much, much larger than on most machines. This has already been heavily criticized by some, as the distance between the espresso cups and the portafilter might be a bit large. But it has the advantage that you can also put larger glasses and cups under it, like a latte macchiato glass, for example. And you hardly find that on any other machine. At least I can't think of any machine right now that has such a large gap. Unfortunately, a cup riser is not included. You'll have to or can order that separately from WPM. Personally, though it's a matter of taste, I don't find WPM's cup riser all that elegant, so we simply developed our own cup riser that's specifically designed for the WPM machine. It has a small rail that fits exactly into the slot of the drip tray, allowing us to slide it around without it slipping. Just like with our Mahlkönig funnel, we've had a small batch of these made, and if you'd like, you can order them from our shop soon. The bayonet mount of the Brew group is unfortunately not an E61 mount, so it's not a standard mount. The portafilter is a bit taller, which means normal standard E61 portafilters unfortunately won't fit into this Brew group. However, it is a 58mm basket. That means you can use any 58mm baskets in there. From WPM, however, you can order a single portafilter, and you also have the option to order a bottomless portafilter. The included portafilter is made of stainless steel, and I think it's very well balanced, feels good in the hand, and has a very, very fine spout, similar to La Marzocco, for example. And that has the advantage that your espresso flows very, very directly into your cup, which somewhat offsets the issue of the large gap between the drip tray and the portafilter. As you can see here, it actually works quite well, but with a small cup riser, it's even a bit better. And our cup riser is also designed so that you can easily fit a scale underneath along with your espresso cups. As mentioned earlier, the Brew group is additionally heated by a PID-controlled thermoblock. This is primarily intended to ensure temperature stability during extraction. The machine's heat-up time is about 2 to 5 minutes, making it incredibly fast. And we'll see if that actually works out later in our temperature test. In total, 2 pumps are installed, a vibration pump for the steam foam and a gear pump for the espresso extraction. And that's really something special. You don't see that very often in espresso machines yet. Gear pumps are not only particularly expensive, which is probably why they're rarely found in espresso machines, but they can also be controlled very, very precisely. This means we can create an even more refined pressure profile than with vibration pumps or rotary pumps. Vibration pumps have the advantage of being quite affordable on one hand and building up pressure slowly on the other. Under certain circumstances, this can have a positive effect on the taste of the espresso. However, they wear out quite quickly, and overall, the water delivery is pulsed, so it's not uniform, unlike rotary pumps or gear pumps. Unlike vibration pumps, rotary pumps build up their pressure immediately. That means you turn them on and the 9 bar is right there. This naturally puts immediate stress on the coffee puck, which can potentially lead to swelling and maybe even channeling. In return, however, unlike vibration pumps, they produce a steady and continuous flow of water. Currently, though, there are only a few rotary pumps that can be controlled to create a pressure or flow profile. And on top of that, they are very, very expensive. That's why espresso machines with rotary pumps are also so pricey. An advantage, on the other hand, is that rotary pumps last for an extremely long time. With gear pumps, it's possible to achieve extremely precise flow and pressure control. This makes truly authentic pressure and profiling possible. And that's especially interesting for light roasts, but it's also great for experimenting with dark roasts. Gear pumps are usually a bit quieter than rotary pumps, but they're quite sensitive to particles like limescale. That means you should really make sure to use decalcified water. But if you use this filter, then you won't have any problems with it. However, definitely check how long your filter lasts, otherwise you'll have the problem of machine calcification again, which is a costly factor. On the front of the Brew group, you'll notice there is a paddle which you can actually use to both start as well as stop the extraction process whenever you want. The paddle up here, by the way, isn't just an on-off switch. It controls the speed of your gear pump. And that allows you to influence exactly the pressure you want to apply to your espresso grounds. So we can control it beautifully, and the great thing is we can also track it on the display above. We see exactly what we're doing right now. On top of the Brew group, you'll find a touchscreen that you can use to change the machine settings. At the very top, we see the set brewing temperature, which we can simply click on and adjust. There are a total of 4 ways you can extract your espresso. First, we have the manual mode. That means we brew our espresso quite simply using the paddle. So we turn it on and we turn it off again. Secondly, there is a semi-automatic mode feature where extraction is carefully divided into 4 pressure stages, plus an optional pre-infusion. However, you can intervene during extraction and jump from one stage to another if, for example, you find your grounds aren't quite the right grind. Another mode is the automatic mode where we can call up pre-programmed pressure and time profiles. You can, of course, choose these profiles freely and even change them afterwards. If you've created a great profile in manual mode, for example, you can give it a name and save it. And the final mode is the constant pressure mode. This means that, in principle, it works like a classic rotary pump with a preset pressure. You can, of course, change this. What we find particularly exciting is that we get a precise curve display during extraction, which we can also access afterwards to review our extraction and maybe even save it if we really liked it. Our impression is that the software is really well thought out and very, very intuitive. There isn't a separate app for this machine, but you can control your extraction in a really clear way. At the moment, however, it's not yet possible to save recipes elsewhere or perhaps even share them. But according to WPM, they're currently working on giving you this option in the future. However, you can update the software, and you do that via Wi-Fi using your smartphone. This means you can download the new software version and then transfer it directly to the machine. And in our view, a separate app isn't strictly necessary either. So you have a whole lot of options to customize your espresso individually. But the good thing is, it's not strictly necessary to do so. A fairly important topic is, of course, machine cleaning, or rather descaling. And there are 2 things you need to watch out for. That is, the thermoblock, you can of course descale that, and you should descale it. And there's a specific setting for that. But according to WPM, and actually according to all the technicians I know, you shouldn't descale the boiler. Use filtered water, then your machine will last a long time. And since you have this filter available, you won't have a problem descaling your water, even if it's very hard. But now I'd say I'll try an espresso, and we've specifically chosen a light roast for today. And we'll just try that with the semi-automatic mode, but first I'll grind these beans here. So the beans are ground now, and I must confess I haven't tried this before. So we haven't fine-tuned it beforehand, and we'll just see a bit of what happens. We've now set the temperature to 94 degrees. I'll preheat the cups once. Additionally, we have established a connection between our Bocot scale and our Bocot app to directly check the extraction process there as well. And today I've actually utilized the electronic tamper, so let's just take a moment and see how that is. Because we don't have an E61 portafilter here, but a slightly modified, slightly taller one. Let's see if it fits. Yes, that fits perfectly too. You don't have any cup heaters up there. And that's why I just warmed up the cups with a little bit of hot water. So now we're going to the semi-automatic mode. I'll quickly turn on the app, and here we go. And then we'll have all the information that we need. That means we can see how long we're extracting. We have the flow rate. Yeah, it's actually halfway okay. I wanted to try to get to 30 seconds. I think I should have ground it a bit finer. We have a bit too much in the cup now, 50 grams. I actually would have preferred 45 grams, but I'll try it anyway. Let's see how it tastes. It smells good already. Yeah. Oh, it's nice and nutty. It definitely has, even though it's a lighter roast, definitely some chocolatey notes. It's not quite as creamy since we have a bit too much liquid in the cup, but the aromas are excellent. The 94 degrees also did it a lot of good. The acidity is well integrated. It has a slight sweetness. Bitter notes aren't coming through yet, just a micro hint. Perfect. It's delicious. So I would have liked it, as I said, to be extracted a bit more densely. I would have liked something around 45 grams, maybe even a bit less. But it works excellently. And as you've seen, we can check everything nicely. But that's not all, of course. We also want to froth some milk, of course. We have a beautifully long steam wand. I like that especially because it makes it much easier to work with larger pitchers. Let's take a look at that. As you've seen, the frothing works excellently with this machine. You have a nice long double-walled steam wand, which means you won't burn yourself, and I think you can froth excellently with it. One more question, does it also have hot water? Of course, it also has a hot water outlet, which is located below the brew group. And based on how we could trace the line inside the machine, the water seems to come from the extraction boiler. You simply start the hot water dispensing with this small symbol here on top of the brew group. This means that in every brewing mode, you then also have the option to dispense hot water directly. Finally, we'll come back to the temperature stability of the machine. It has this additional thermoblock built in so that the temperature remains nice and steady during extraction. Unfortunately, the machine doesn't reach the advertised heating time of 2 to 5 minutes. To be honest, that also sounds a bit unrealistic. At normal room temperature, we needed about 6 to 8 minutes. And also regarding temperature stability, the machine unfortunately doesn't quite achieve what we hoped for. Despite the extra thermoblock, it has a deviation of about 1 to 1.5 degrees during extraction, putting it in the same range as many other machines. We recommend performing a flush of about 5 seconds before extraction, as we found that the temperature stability is a bit more accurate then. The power consumption of the machine is actually very low. From switching it on to the first espresso, you use about 0.115 kilowatt hours, and that's really not much. And if you want to make a cappuccino and then froth again, you use a total of 0.34 kilowatt hours. And finally, of course, as always, the conclusion, who is this machine for? Is it good? Is it not good? Did we see any disadvantages or not? And as you might have noticed, we're quite enthusiastic about the machine. It's really fun to work with this machine. We believe the machine is truly suitable for all those who enjoy experimenting, who really want to get the finest details out of their espresso. And you've seen the possibilities we have there, temperature and pressure, and that makes a whole lot of difference. With that, you can really change a lot in and about your espresso. But even if you don't feel like experimenting much, you still have the option to just use the machine like any other. That means you turn it on and turn it off and get your espresso. We read somewhere that the machine is even supposed to be suitable for catering. Based on the components used, this might even be true, as they're high quality enough to use the machine a bit more intensively. But the mere fact that you can't connect the wastewater would keep us from using the machine in a catering business. Maybe in a very, very small one. Maybe you have a small restaurant where you pull 3, 4, 5, or 6 espressos in a row in the evening, and then I think you can really work well with this machine. But otherwise, for a catering business, I'd rather not. There's not much more to say about this machine, really. We had a lot of fun with it. We also find the price-performance ratio of the machine very, very fair, and that's also reflected in the scope of delivery. You have a stainless steel double-spout portafilter included. Then there are even 3 baskets in total in different sizes. Of course, you have a blind basket included. Then there's a really decent tamper. It's nice and heavy, feels good in the hand, and yeah, it's just great. We think it's really great. Then a tamping mat, at least a small one, and also a cleaning brush are included. And the nice thing is you also get a second steam nozzle, and this one even has 3 holes. That means you have a lot more steam power and it gets hot much faster. And finally, a cleaning cloth is also included, and we think that's really a lot, and completely sufficient for the start. The only thing missing from the set is this filter. It's not included, at least we didn't have it with us. You have to buy that. And then, of course, the question is, do you want a cup tray or not? I think that's quite useful. As I said, you can either order it additionally from the WPM shop, or maybe you'd like to order our cup tray here, which we've already produced in a small edition. And with that, all that's left for me to do is thank you for watching. And if you like our tests, we're of course happy about every subscriber, every like, and every comment. Feel free to exchange ideas here on our forum, and of course, we also look forward to every discussion and comment here in our forum. And if there are any questions, we'll try to answer them as quickly as possible. Thanks again for watching, and we wish you a delicious espresso until next time. See you soon.